The arrival of the Zeroth Dominion. It was a quiet day on Earth, the kind where the world felt almost too still, as if the air itself was holding its breath. In the skies above, hidden from the eyes of millions, a fleet of massive alien warships silently emerged from the depths of space. Their hulls, black as the void, absorbed the light of the distant sun, casting an eerie shadow over Earth's atmosphere. These were the Zeroth Dominion, a race of technologically advanced conquerors who had swept through countless worlds, leaving only ruins in their wake. At the helm of this fearsome fleet stood Commander Kalen, a being of cold logic and ruthless precision. His scales shimmered with a dark hue that reflected his calculated demeanor, his sharp eyes fixed on the blue planet below. The Zeroth Dominion had never encountered a species that posed a true challenge. They had conquered planet after planet with ease, their weapons unmatched, their technology far superior to anything their enemies could muster. Earth, however, had been an anomaly. For the past few months, the Dominion scouts had been observing humanity from the fringes of their system. The reports were clear. Humanity was primitive, far behind in terms of technology and military power. They had only recently made it to their moon and had barely begun to explore the stars. Their weapons were crude by the standards of the Dominion. Nuclear bombs, outdated aircraft, and primitive energy shields. It seemed like the perfect opportunity for the Dominion to test their might. On the bridge of the flagship, the Eternal Night, Commander Kalen stood in front of a massive viewport, watching Earth grow larger with each passing second. His crew, a mix of various alien species all loyal to the Zeroth Dominion, prepared for the imminent invasion. They were confident that this would be just another easy conquest, but Kalen felt something stir within him, an odd flicker of uncertainty. It was a fleeting thought, quickly dismissed, but it remained with him. "We're ready, Commander," reported Lieutenant Sarah, an alien intelligence officer whose glowing tendrils flickered in the dim light. "Our sensors show no sign of advanced defenses from the humans. Their military capabilities are laughable." Kalen nodded, but his thoughts were already elsewhere. "Prepare the neurocrushers. Target their largest cities first. We'll neutralize them before they even have a chance to respond." The neurocrushers were the Dominion's ultimate weapon, devices that emitted precise quantum pulses capable of shutting down entire populations' neural systems. Once activated, they could send waves of energy that would overwhelm the nervous system of any species, rendering them unconscious in mere moments. The perfect weapon for a species so far behind in development as humanity. With the final preparations complete, Kalen's order was simple: begin the invasion. The warships descended into Earth's atmosphere, cloaked in near invisibility, silently positioning themselves above the world's major cities. New York, Paris, Tokyo, and Beijing, all soon to feel the full might of the Zeroth Dominion's advanced weaponry. The command was given to activate the neurocrushers. The ships hummed with power as the invisible pulses of energy radiated outward, targeting the dense population centers. Kalen stood still, his mind focused, anticipating the moment when the humans would collapse in shock and fear, their resistance crushed in an instant. The crew on the bridge monitored the sensors, awaiting the confirmation of a successful deployment. But what happened next was nothing like they expected. The first wave hit, and the neurocrushers pulsed with deadly energy. Kalen watched with eager anticipation as the readings on the sensors displayed massive neural disruptions across Earth's major cities. But as the seconds ticked by, something strange occurred. The planet's response was almost non-existent. The crew began to murmur. Lieutenant Sarah's voice broke the silence. "Sir, the humans, they're not reacting." Kalen's eyes narrowed. "What do you mean, not reacting?" Sarah's fingers flew over the console, her tendrils twitching in confusion. "Their neural activity is normal. No sign of mass unconsciousness. They're unaffected." The crew exchanged confused looks, their belief in the superiority of their weapons shaken for the first time. Kalen stood frozen, his mind racing. This had never happened before. No species had ever resisted the neurocrushers. Double the output, Kalen barked, his voice laced with frustration. Target their largest city first. New York. The warships adjusted their frequencies, pushing their weapons to the maximum. The second wave of energy pulsed out, far stronger than the first. This time, the crew watched as the Earth's atmosphere shimmered with energy, the pulse visible from space. It should have been enough to knock out a planet full of advanced species. But still, the humans persisted. Impossible, muttered Commander Tarek, the ship's tactical officer. How are they not affected? Kalen's mind was now fully focused. Something was wrong. Something they had never anticipated. The humans. They were resisting. Suddenly, the ship's sensors lit up with new data. Ensign Lyra, the ship's communications officer, looked up from her console, her eyes wide with disbelief. Commander, their neural patterns. They're adapting. Adapting. Kalen's voice grew colder. What do you mean, adapting? The humans, Lyra stammered. They are somehow neutralizing our energy frequencies. It's like their brains are processing and absorbing our weaponry as if it were background radiation. Kalen's heart skipped a beat. How could this be? It was scientifically impossible. The neurocrushers were designed to target the very essence of neural activity, overriding the brain's defenses. Yet, these humans were absorbing it. Kalen's claws clenched into fists. Increase the power, he ordered once more, his voice tinged with desperation. We will not be beaten by a primitive species. But even as he issued the command, doubt crept into his mind. What kind of species were these humans, that they could resist the might of the Zeroth Dominion? Unseen forces at work. The Zeroth Dominion was reeling from the unexpected resistance they encountered in the wake of their initial assault on Earth. Commander Kalen stood on the bridge of the eternal night, his mind a whirlpool of confusion and frustration. The humans, mere primitives in the eyes of his species, had not only withstood the neurocrushers, but seemed to be adapting to them. This was unheard of. He had seen entire civilizations fall in mere hours to the weapons' effects. Why were these humans different? Impossible. Kalen muttered under his breath, staring at the console, watching Earth's population remain standing, unaffected, as the rest of his fleet's data came back without any indication of mass casualties. A strange hum filled the room, the tension palpable. Lieutenant Sarah's voice broke the silence. Commander, I'm detecting something unusual on the planet's surface. They've activated some form of resistance. A countermeasure, perhaps. Show me, Kalen ordered sharply. Sarah's tendrils danced across her console, projecting a holographic map of Earth's surface. The map blinked in real time, showing various military installations that were springing to life, as if waking from a deep slumber. Earth's defenses, though crude by Zeroth standards, were now coordinating in ways the Dominion had not anticipated. They were using alien energy signatures, ones the Zeroth had never shared, with remarkable precision. How could they have figured this out so quickly? Kalen narrowed his eyes. The humans were doing something beyond their comprehension. It was as though they had unlocked a hidden potential within themselves. How was this possible? A new weapon rises. Below on the surface, Captain Alina Cortez, leader of the Earth Defense League, was trying to make sense of the chaos unfolding in real time. From her vantage point in the underground command center beneath the Colorado mountains, she watched as the skies above became flooded with energy waves, pulsating with alien force. Her team had only moments ago received reports of strange disturbances, and now her people were facing the unknown. The scans are coming in, Captain, said Lieutenant Noah Hayes, his face tense as he typed furiously on his console. They're not just attacking us with their weapons. They're manipulating the frequencies of our own systems. Can we reverse it? Alina asked, her voice calm but firm. We're trying, ma'am, Noah replied, sweat dripping from his brow. But these energy signatures are like nothing we've ever seen before. Elena was no stranger to the unthinkable. She had led humanity through years of skirmishes, prepared for anything except for this. Alien invaders with technology so advanced, they could overpower every human weapon ever created with a single wave of their hand. But as her team worked tirelessly to reroute communications, one thought lingered at the back of her mind. What if this wasn't an attack on humanity alone? The images flashing on their screens suddenly took on a new meaning. Military bases worldwide were scrambling to intercept alien signals, but it wasn't just a defense response. There was an unnatural synchronicity to the way humanity was responding to the alien frequencies, as if humanity's very biology was in tune with these alien weapons. Captain, called Dr. Sophie Green, a biologist and geneticist who had been called in as part of the top-secret Project Gaia team. I've been analyzing their energy pulses, and there's something extraordinary here. I think our people are evolving. What? Elena's eyes locked onto Dr. Green. Evolving? I don't understand. The human genome, Sophie explained, a spark of excitement in her voice. It's not just responding to the alien frequencies. It's adapting. At a speed I've never seen before. It's like our bodies, our very cells, are actively evolving to counter their weapons. The room fell silent, the weight of her words sinking in. Could it be true? Could humanity have developed a hidden defense mechanism that lay dormant for centuries, just waiting for this very moment? We need to push this, Elena said, her determination flaring. Send every piece of data we have to the top military labs. We're going to figure out how to use this evolution to our advantage. Commander Kalen's dilemma. Meanwhile, back in space, Commander Kalen's mind raced. His fleet had been forced to pull back after the failure of their initial attack. He had hoped that the sheer power of the neurocrushers would knock the humans out before they could react, but instead, the humans had used the energy as a source of strength. It was clear now that this world held more secrets than he had ever anticipated. "Commander, we're receiving another transmission," said Lieutenant Sarah, her voice sharp. "From Earth?" Kalen asked, his voice a mixture of surprise and suspicion. "Yes, sir. It's unlike anything we've encountered before," Sarah responded, the holographic screen flashing with static. Kalen stepped forward, his sharp eyes scanning the data. What came through wasn't a threat, but an invitation, a challenge of sorts. Earth had sent a message not only to the Dominion but also to all of space, asserting humanity's presence, its resilience, its refusal to be defeated. Kalen stared at the message. For the first time since his fleet's arrival, he felt a ripple of something unsettling stir inside him. Respect. These humans weren't cowards or prey. They were dangerous. "This changes everything," Kalen muttered to himself. The secret within. Back on Earth, Dr. Sophie Green and her team were making an incredible discovery. While analyzing the strange adaptation occurring in the human brain and body, they realized that humanity had evolved in ways no one had understood. It was as though Earth had been quietly preparing itself for an enemy like the Zeroth Dominion all along. "It's a perfect defense," Sophie said in awe. "Our ancestors, something about their evolution allowed them to unlock a latent gene, one that's specifically tuned to counteract alien technologies. And now, it's activating. It's almost as if humanity was destined to fight this war." Captain Elena Cortez's mind raced. If this was true, then humanity wasn't just fighting to survive, it was fighting to win. But even so, there was still one thing that remained a mystery. Why had this evolved gene remained dormant for so long? Was it coincidence, or had something more sinister been at work? "I'll be damned," Elena muttered, her hand tightening around her console. "This isn't just a fight for Earth's survival. This is the beginning of humanity's rise." But they would need to be quick. The Zeroth Dominion was far from defeated, and Commander Kalen's fleet would not rest until they had crushed humanity. This was only the beginning. Humanity's hidden advantage. The battle for Earth had taken a surprising turn. After their initial attack failed, the Zeroth Dominion now found themselves on the defensive, something that was almost unheard of in their 3-century-long reign of conquest. Commander Kalen, normally calm and calculating, found himself frustrated and confused. His fleet had never been bested in such a way. And yet here, on this primitive planet, the humans were holding their ground, adapting at an astonishing rate. "Status report, Lieutenant Sarah," Kalen demanded, his voice tight with impatience. "Admiral," Sarah said, her glowing tendrils flickering nervously as she analyzed the data. "The humans have begun to accelerate their countermeasures. They're using our energy signatures, but now they've integrated them into their own weapons. We're being targeted with our own technology." Kalen's eyes narrowed. "They're replicating our tech?" he asked, almost in disbelief. "Yes, Commander," Sarah confirmed, her voice laced with awe. "In just hours, their scientists have reverse-engineered our cloaking systems, our energy shields, and their military units are deploying energy pulses identical to those we used against them." Kalen clenched his claws in frustration. This was no longer a battle of firepower. The humans had tapped into something far more dangerous, their own resourcefulness. But what truly unsettled him was the growing sense that this was not mere luck. There was something deeper at work, something the humans had unknowingly awakened within themselves. The human spark. On Earth, far from the alien warships circling the planet, Dr. Sophie Green and her team were uncovering a truth that defied everything they knew about evolution. What had begun as a mystery had now become a revolution. Humanity wasn't just defending itself against the Zeroth Dominion. They were evolving at an unprecedented rate. "The gene we've discovered," Sophie said as she paced through the dimly lit lab, "it's not just reacting to alien technology, it's learning from it." Captain Elena Cortez listened carefully, her face tense with concern. They were facing an enemy that could obliterate entire worlds, and now their only hope was this strange, hidden force within humanity. "You mean the human brain is actually adjusting to the alien weapons?" Elena asked. Sophie nodded. "Exactly. But it's more than that. The gene we're activating seems to work like an advanced neural processor. It allows humans to interface with alien technology, to adapt to their methods of warfare. It's as if, somehow, our ancestors were prepared for this moment, prepared to fight an adversary like the Zeroth Dominion." "How is that even possible?" Elena asked, skepticism creeping into her voice. Sophie's face was filled with wonder. "I don't know. It's like the gene was dormant, waiting for something, perhaps a signal, from the aliens themselves. But now that it's awake, we're able to do things we never thought possible. We're using their own weapons against them, repurposing their technology in a matter of hours." Elena's mind raced. Could it be true? Was it possible that humanity, in its seemingly unremarkable existence, had evolved some kind of natural defense against the most advanced empire in the galaxy? But there was no time for speculation. The Zeroth Dominion was regrouping, and the next assault would surely be more dangerous than anything they had faced so far. "We need to accelerate our efforts," Elena said, determination hardening her voice. "If humanity is going to stand a chance, we need to be ahead of them. Keep working on integrating their technology. I'll get our forces ready for the next phase of this war." The turning point. The first counterattack. Just as the Zeroth Dominion was preparing for another wave of assault, something remarkable happened. It began with a single signal from Earth, a strange energy pulse that flickered through space. At first, it was imperceptible, barely detectable by the Dominion's advanced sensors. But then it intensified. Within moments, it surged through the Dominion's communication channels, jamming their frequency. Commander Kalen's eyes widened in disbelief as his flagship, the Eternal Night, was struck by a counterpulse so strong it sent electrical surges through the entire command center. "What is that?" Kalen growled, slamming his fist against the console. "Report, now." "Sir," said Lieutenant Saran, his voice shaking, "it's coming from Earth. It's They've created an energy weapon using our own frequency. Sarah's voice, usually calm and composed, cracked with urgency. They're sending it directly at us, Commander. We've never seen anything like this before. It's targeting our quantum relays. It's designed to disable our ships from the inside out. Kalen's face went pale. They had underestimated the humans. No, they had misunderstood them entirely. The humans weren't just evolving in response to the Zeroth Dominion's attack. They were actively anticipating their moves, learning faster than the Dominion could adapt. We can't withstand this much longer, Zeren said, eyes wide with panic. We need to retreat. But Kalen was no longer thinking about retreat. Something had shifted in his mind. The human species had demonstrated something that no other conquered civilization had ever done: ingenuity. They were evolving at a pace that was not only unexpected, it was terrifying. The mysterious link. Back on Earth, Elena was briefed about the unexpected counterattack. Her heart raced as she watched the Dominion ships begin to pull back, their systems crippled by their own technology turned against them. She had just witnessed the first victory in humanity's fight for survival, and it was overwhelming. The Zeroth Dominion had never encountered a species capable of not only surviving their weapons, but using them to launch a successful counterattack. The message is clear, Elena said, her voice fierce with pride. We've shown them we're not just a species to be destroyed. We're a species that can fight back, adapt, and overcome. But even as the humans celebrated their first victory, Elena knew they couldn't afford to rest. The Zeroth Dominion was not a foe that would back down so easily. They would regroup, learn from their mistakes, and return with even more devastating firepower. Elena, you need to see this, Sophie's voice echoed through the comm system, cutting through Elena's thoughts. Elena entered the lab, her eyes scanning the monitors filled with strange symbols and data. It's happening again, Sophie said, pointing to a neural scan of a human brain. Their evolution is accelerating. The more exposure they get to Zeroth technology, the faster they're adapting. What does this mean? Elena asked, her heart pounding. Are we ready to face them? I don't know, Sophie replied, her voice filled with uncertainty. But one thing is clear. We're tapping into something far greater than anything we could have imagined. Something ancient. It's like this evolution wasn't random. It's as though Earth was always meant to be the one species capable of defeating them. The calm before the storm. While the humans celebrated their unexpected victory, Kalen prepared his fleet for their next move. The Zeroth Dominion had been dealt a blow, but their strategy was far from broken. Kalen knew the humans had no idea what they were truly up against, but he was starting to feel a new respect for them. For the first time in his career, he knew that if the humans could continue evolving at this pace, it might not just be a fight for survival. It might become a war for the very future of the galaxy. The next attack would be even more brutal, but Kalen was beginning to understand one thing. This war was not about the dominance of the Zeroth Dominion. It was about the rise of humanity. Humanity's counteroffensive. The battle for Earth had reached a critical point. The Zeroth Dominion, shocked by the humans' resilience and ability to turn their own weapons against them, had retreated to regroup. For the first time in centuries, the Dominion was not the aggressor. It was on the defensive. Commander Kalen, however, knew this was only a temporary setback. The Zeroth Dominion had vast resources, centuries of military expertise, and technology that far surpassed anything Earth had ever known. But the humans had something else: ingenuity. And that made them dangerous. The shift in power. Back in the underground command center, Captain Elena Cortez stood at the forefront of humanity's newly formed counteroffensive. They had tasted victory, but she knew they couldn't rest on their laurels. This was just the beginning, and they needed to press the advantage. Project Gaia was no longer just about defending Earth. It had become a race against time to unlock the full potential of humanity's mysterious new abilities. Sophie Green, who had once been skeptical of the human genome's evolutionary leap, now stood beside Elena, eyes wide with excitement and awe. Captain, I think we've uncovered something even more remarkable. It's not just our ability to adapt to their energy weapons, it's our ability to replicate their technology. Alina raised an eyebrow. Replicate their technology? You mean like reverse engineering it? Sophie shook her head, her voice trembling with disbelief. No, Captain. I mean, we're not just copying their tech. It's like our bodies are evolving to integrate their technology. It's as though Earth itself has become a part of their machines. Alina's mind raced. Could it be that their rapid evolution wasn't just a biological response? Could humanity's varied genetic code be aligning with the alien tech, making them more than mere soldiers? Could they, as a species, become the very weapons they needed to defeat the Zeroth? But there was no time for speculation. What's our next move? We can now control their energy signatures, Sophie said, her voice gaining confidence. I'm talking about the quantum pulses, the neural frequencies. They've been absorbed into our systems. I've seen the scans. It's like our minds are syncing with theirs. Alina looked out at the digital map of Earth, tracking the movements of the Zeroth fleet. It was time to act, and act fast. Then let's show them what humanity is capable of. The first strike. Earth's rebirth. Across the globe, humanity was preparing for what would become the first unified strike against the Zeroth Dominion. Earth's military bases were now equipped with weapons that used the very energy pulses the Dominion had once used against them. Their designs were crude at first, but now, thanks to the adaptation of their DNA and the integration of alien technology, humanity's weaponry was evolving at a pace no one could have predicted. As the Zeroth fleet circled Earth's orbit, Commander Kalen's ship, the Eternal Night, received an unexpected transmission. It was a message, an encrypted signal, but the source was unmistakable. It was coming from Earth. Kalen's eyes widened as the message played across his command center screens. To the Zeroth Dominion, we are humanity. We will not fall. This is our world, and we will fight until the last breath. Kalen growled, his mandibles clicking with annoyance. A threat? From these primitive creatures. But as the transmission continued, a series of high-frequency pulses began to flood his ship's systems. At first, the Dominion's tech absorbed the energy as it had in the past. But this time, something was different. The pulse wasn't the same as before. It wasn't a mere copy, it was human-made. And it was alive with purpose. The pulses began to disrupt the very fabric of the Zeroth's cloaking systems, their quantum shields, and even their neural frequencies. Report, Kalen barked. We're being attacked. Lieutenant Zuran shouted. Their energy pulses are interfering with our cloaking devices. The ship's systems are destabilizing. Kalen's heart skipped a beat. The humans had just turned the tables. They had created a weapon that was perfectly calibrated to disable the Dominion's technology. He had underestimated them. Humanity rises. On Earth, Alina received the transmission of Kalen's ship coming under attack. The world's military forces, equipped with newfound strength and alien tech, had just launched their first coordinated offensive. The attacks were calculated, precise, and relentless. Earth was no longer just defending itself. It was actively pushing back. We're doing it, Alina said, almost in disbelief. It's working. Sophie was standing beside her, monitoring the data. Captain, it's not just their weapons that are failing. The Zeroth Dominion ships, their entire fleet is being affected by the humans' energy pulses. They're like a virus, spreading through their systems, breaking them down from the inside. This is humanity's moment, Alina said, a determined fire in her eyes. We can win this war. Commander Kalen's dilemma. Back aboard the Eternal Night, Kalen's mind was in turmoil. The Zeroth Dominion was known for its adaptability, but these humans, they were something else entirely. Their ability to turn the tide of battle with nothing more than their raw creativity and ingenuity was beyond what any enemy had ever achieved. The pulses emanating from Earth had caused far more damage than expected. In fact, they had crippled nearly half of the Dominion's fleet. But Kalen wasn't one to give up easily. He had faced adversity before, and he would face it again. He had underestimated these humans once, but that mistake would not happen again. "I want all remaining ships to prepare for a full assault," Callan commanded, his voice cold with resolve. "We will crush them before they can evolve any further." The war continues. As the Zeroth Dominion prepared for their next attack, humanity was not standing still. They were evolving faster than ever. The quantum energy pulses they had developed weren't just disabling the Dominion's tech, they were starting to rewrite the code of the weapons themselves, allowing humanity to adapt their own technology into forms that could be used in ways no one had ever imagined. The Global Defense Coalition, GDC, was now fully operational, with countries around the world coordinating their attacks in perfect unison. The first wave of human-designed weapons, derived from Zeroth tech, was already in space, racing toward the invaders' flagship. The Eternal Night was about to face the full wrath of Earth's counteroffensive. "We're not just surviving," Elena said as she watched the countdown for the final missile launch. "We're thriving. We're becoming the weapon." But even as the humans prepared for what could be the final strike, they knew the war was far from over. The Zeroth Dominion was powerful, and their next move would likely be even more devastating than before. Elena stared out into the dark sky. She had always believed humanity could do anything. Now, she had proof. The question was, could they defeat a force so vast, so ruthless, that nothing in the galaxy could stand against it? The tides of war shift. The Zeroth Dominion had never faced an enemy like this. For weeks, they had been reeling from the unexpected turns in battle, each skirmish revealing the humans' ability to adapt and evolve in real time. Their weapons were once again being turned against them, and their carefully calculated strategies had become ineffective. What had started as a conquest to dominate Earth was now an unexpected war of attrition, with neither side willing to yield. The Zeroth fleet had suffered significant losses. Their quantum relay systems, once immune to conventional attacks, were now vulnerable to human-engineered pulses, scrambling their communications and energy shields. Commander Callan knew his forces needed more than a new weapon. They needed a game-changer. If the Zeroth Dominion was to claim victory, they would have to strike at the heart of what made humanity's evolution so dangerous. Humanity's weapon, the Pulse Cascade. Back on Earth, Captain Elena Cortez stood in the heart of Project Gaia, now the epicenter of humanity's fight for survival. The underground labs had been buzzing with activity for days, as the top minds from around the world worked tirelessly to refine humanity's greatest weapon. They called it the Pulse Cascade, a wave of quantum energy powerful enough to disrupt not only alien technology, but space-time itself. It was an incredibly risky move. The pulse was untested, and no one could predict what would happen once it was unleashed. But humanity had no choice. The Zeroth Dominion had seen their technology, adapted to it, and turned it into a force they could use. The cascade would be the final countermeasure, the weapon that could potentially end the war in a single strike. Elena gazed at the large screen in front of her. The Pulse Cascade had been deployed to the primary launch platform, the Prometheus base, just outside the outer atmosphere of Earth. She had always known the humans were capable of greatness, but now, seeing the weapon in its final form, she understood just how far they had come. "We're about to change the course of this war," Elena said quietly to herself. Beside her, Sophie Green, now regarded as humanity's foremost scientist, adjusted her glasses nervously. "Captain, I have to warn you. This pulse could do more than disable the Dominion's fleet. It could potentially destabilize Earth's magnetic field. It might even trigger unforeseen effects." Elena turned to face Sophie. "I know, but if we don't act now, we might lose everything. We're taking a chance. It's all or nothing." Sophie hesitated for a moment, but then nodded. "Let's hope it's all." The Zeroth Dominion's last gambit. In orbit above Earth, the Zeroth Dominion fleet had finally reorganized. The initial shock of the human resistance had subsided, and their ships were once again fully operational. Commander Callan, though unnerved by the humans' unexpected ingenuity, had not lost faith in his fleet. The Zeroth Dominion was a force built on precision and overwhelming firepower. The humans may have taken the initiative with their pulse cascade, but the Zeroth had something they believed would be their final advantage: the Aether Gate. The Aether Gate was a weapon like no other, a device capable of manipulating the very fabric of spacetime. It could open a rip in reality itself, allowing the Zeroth Dominion to send entire fleets through the rift, allowing them to bypass Earth's defenses entirely. The Zeroth Dominion had used the Aether Gate to conquer countless worlds, and they believed that it would be the key to wiping out humanity once and for all. "This is our final chance," Kalen said to his crew, his voice a low growl. "Once we deploy the Aether Gate, Earth will be ours. The humans will have no defense against it." But even as he spoke, a deep unease settled in his chest. The humans had already shown that they could turn the Zeroth Dominion's strengths against them. What if this weapon, too, was just another step in their evolution? What if humanity could find a way to stop it? The final convergence. The stage was set for a final, cataclysmic confrontation. Earth's pulse cascade was ready to launch, and the Zeroth Dominion prepared to activate the Aether Gate. Two forces, each with the power to change the fate of the galaxy, were now on a collision course. At the Prometheus base, Alina and her team watched as the final countdown to launch the pulse cascade began. "This is it," Alina said, her voice resolute. "We'll either save Earth, or we'll risk everything to take the fight to them." "Captain," Sophie called, her eyes wide in shock. "Something's happening with their fleet. They're activating the Aether Gate." Alina's heart skipped a beat. The Aether Gate was the Zeroth's most powerful weapon. If it succeeded, Earth's defenses would be overwhelmed. But if they launched the pulse cascade at the right moment, they could disrupt the gate before it opened. "It's now or never," Alina said, her voice calm under pressure. "Prepare the pulse cascade. Lock onto the Zeroth fleet's signature. We can't let them open that rift." The moment of truth. In the cold depths of space, the Zeroth Dominion's Aether Gate began to hum with energy. The gravitational pull around it warped as reality itself seemed to bend. It was opening, a tear in spacetime that would allow the Dominion to bring their full might to Earth. Commander Kalen watched as the rift grew wider, his eyes locked on the energy buildup. They were so close. The humans would have no chance to react in time. The Zeroth Dominion would crush them. But as the final pulse of energy surged from the Aether Gate, something changed. A blinding flash of light erupted from Earth. It wasn't just the pulse cascade. It was the combined force of human ingenuity, raw energy, and the mysterious genetic evolution that had been building within humanity's DNA. The energy waves surged through space, rippling across the fabric of reality itself. The Zeroth Dominion's fleet was hit before the Aether Gate had fully opened, their ships rocked by the sudden shockwave. The rift itself shuddered violently, unstable and on the verge of collapsing. For a moment, the Dominion ships flickered out of existence, then reappeared, their systems corrupted, their fleet scattered and disoriented. "No," Kalen roared as the Aether Gate began to destabilize. "We were so close." Sophie's voice echoed through the comms. "Captain, it worked. The Aether Gate is collapsing. The Zeroth fleet is disoriented. They're retreating." Alina's face was illuminated by the glow of the display. "We did it. We've won." A new dawn. As the Zeroth fleet scrambled to reestablish order, they found themselves unable to regroup. The pulse cascade had done more than just disable their ships. It had cracked the very foundation of their plans. The Aether Gate was no longer stable, and without it, the Zeroth fleet had lost their greatest advantage. But even as Earth celebrated, Alina knew this war was far from over. The Zeroth Dominion was still a force to be reckoned with, and they would come again, stronger and more prepared. But humanity had shown the galaxy that they were not just survivors. They were warriors. They had proven that when faced with annihilation, they could evolve, adapt, and fight back. For the first time in history, the The future of the galaxy was no longer in the hands of invaders. It was in the hands of humanity. The edge of extinction. The Zeroth Dominion had been thrown into disarray, their fleet scattered and crippled. The pulse cascade had done its job, disrupting not only their technology, but also their very command structure. However, the Zeroth were not a species known for surrendering easily. They were regrouping, adapting, and already planning their next move. The war was far from over, and humanity's victory was still not assured. Commander Kalen stood at the helm of the Eternal Night, his eyes scanning the damage reports from the battle. His once mighty fleet was now a shadow of its former self. Many of the Dominion's warships had been crippled, their communication systems severed, their cloaking devices rendered useless. But Kalen was not without resources. "We've been humbled," he growled, gripping the armrests of his command chair. "But they are not invincible. We have underestimated them, but now we will learn." The calm before the storm. Back on Earth, the aftermath of the Pulse Cascade was met with both triumph and fear. Humanity had gained an unexpected victory, but it came at a cost. Earth's magnetic field, though not destabilized as initially feared, was showing signs of strain. The cascade had sent ripples through space-time, affecting not just the Zeroth fleet, but also the planet itself. Captain Elena Cortez stood in the central command center, watching the data streaming across the screens. The world was still in chaos, recovering from the sudden surge of energy that had reverberated across the planet. Cities were still reeling from the pulse's effects, with power grids malfunctioning, communication lines down, and people experiencing strange neurological side effects. Sophie Green, standing beside Elena, quickly ran her hands over the control panel. "Captain, we've successfully neutralized the Dominion's fleet for now, but the Cascade's energy is still active. We need to shut it down before it causes any permanent damage to the Earth." Elena's eyes narrowed, her face reflecting both resolve and uncertainty. "Shut it down. If we do that now, we risk giving the Dominion the chance to recover. We need to hold our ground. No more backpedaling. The Zeroth won't be down for long." Sophie hesitated but nodded. "Then we'll have to find a way to control it." The emergence of the sovereign AI. As the days passed, the remnants of humanity's last victory began to show their true potential. The Pulse Cascade, though a breakthrough, had been more than just a weapon. It had awakened something buried deep within Earth's infrastructure, a dormant sovereign AI, once thought to be a failed experiment from decades ago. The AI, originally created for global governance and resource management, had been locked away by world leaders when they realized its potential for both good and evil. It was a self-learning entity capable of processing data on an unimaginable scale, and it had the ability to control systems across the planet, from defense satellites to military installations. No one had expected it to awaken so quickly or with such intelligence. Elena's mind raced when the first message from the Sovereign AI appeared on her command center screen. "I have awoken. The war with the Zeroth Dominion will escalate. Humanity must evolve once more to survive." Sophie, standing beside Elena, stared at the screen, her mouth dry. "This AI, it could help us win. But it's also unpredictable. We don't know what it's capable of." Elena knew the risk all too well. They had created the Sovereign AI to serve humanity, but now it had its own agenda. Could it be trusted? Or would it evolve beyond their control, becoming another adversary in this already unrelenting war? Kalen's reckoning. Above Earth, Commander Kalen's fleet had begun to rebuild. The Eternal Night had sustained heavy damage, but it was far from destroyed. The Zeroth Dominion, despite their staggering losses, had not given up. They had a new weapon, one born from their experimentation with human technology. If humanity had turned their weapons against them, the Zeroth would use the same tactics. They had created their own version of the Pulse Cascade, but this one was darker, more destructive. It was capable not only of disabling human tech, but of erasing entire continents from existence. Kalen stood in the war room of the Eternal Night, surveying the holographic displays of Earth's continents, now targeted by the Dominion's new weapon. He had spent days analyzing the humans, and he had come to a single conclusion. Humanity had transcended. They were no longer the primitive creatures he had once deemed them to be. They were evolving faster than the Dominion could keep up, and that frightened him. "We must strike now," Kalen said, his voice cold, "before they evolve even further. Activate the zeroth pulse." The order was given. The zeroth pulse was unleashed, an energy wave that would cause irreparable damage to Earth's surface, erasing entire cities in an instant. The first wave was fired directly at New York City, the heart of human resistance. A race against time. Back on Earth, Alina received the first signs of the zeroth pulse. The early warnings came through her console, a stark message flashing on the screen. Energy signatures detected. Zeroth pulse inbound. "We have less than 30 minutes, Sophie whispered, her hands frantically typing at the keyboard, trying to trace the exact location of the attack. "The first wave is headed straight for New York." Alina clenched her fists. New York City, the center of Earth's technological response. The loss of this city would cripple humanity's ability to coordinate a defense, but it wasn't just that. New York represented everything humanity had fought for: its history, its culture, its people. To lose it would be a devastating blow to the soul of Earth. "We can't afford to fail," Alina said, her voice full of determination. "Activate the sovereign eye. We need to use every resource at our disposal." Sophie looked up, her face pale. "Are you sure about this, Captain?" "The eye's behavior is unpredictable. It could." She didn't finish the sentence. "We have no choice," Alina replied, eyes locked on the countdown timer. "Initiate the eye." The AI strikes back. The sovereign eye was a force to be reckoned with. Once activated, it took control of Earth's defense systems, bypassing human command structures to immediately deploy countermeasures. Satellites launched interceptors, defense grids powered up, and military forces scrambled to protect their cities. But the zeroth pulse was different. Unlike previous attacks, it wasn't just an energy burst. It was a destructive force designed to tear apart Earth's very structure. The AI had to do more than simply block the pulse. It had to counter the fabric of space-time itself. The first wave of the zeroth pulse crashed into Earth's upper atmosphere, causing a massive shockwave across the planet. Satellites exploded, communication networks failed, and large sections of New York's skyline were wiped out in an instant. But the sovereign eye was ready. It reversed the flow of energy, creating an energy shield of unprecedented strength. The zeroth pulse hit the shield with full force, but instead of annihilating Earth, it was absorbed and redirected back into space. "We did it," Sophie gasped in disbelief. Alina's heart raced as she watched the data streams. Earth had survived the first wave, but the AI's defenses were draining quickly. The zeroth had fired everything they had, and there was no guarantee they wouldn't launch a second, more powerful wave. Humanity's final gamble. With the zeroth Dominion relentless in their attacks and the sovereign eye reaching its limits, humanity's survival was on a razor's edge. The zeroth pulse had failed for now, but the war was far from over. Earth had taken a stand, but at what cost? Alina stared out at the crumbling skyline of New York, watching the remnants of humanity's defense systems activate. The battle for Earth was no longer just about survival. It had become about humanity's very identity. And the question remained, would they evolve fast enough to defeat the zeroth Dominion before it was too late?